Hi, Nick Brunsdon here to talk about the North Perth House, which is an entrant in this year's WA Architecture Awards. Let me get to it. Okay, that's me. First thing to talk about is if you are interested in this, it's also been part of a recording or documentation process for an upcoming season of Grand Designs Australia, so keep an eye out for it in sometime middle of 2021. The house is located in North Perth, which is a suburb 3 kilometres north of Perth in Western Australia. It's a suburb that's in transition. You have this extant sort of suburban character washing over the sort of density pressures of the city, and North Perth is where these two things are really starting to meet. So smaller block sizes, the imposition of some commercial, retail, but also, you know, a lot of historical character. So it's a really interesting place. Our block is right in the middle of that image, this open piece of dirt right there. Sorry, keep jumping too far. The project came about really strangely, almost about the easiest project that's ever come out of my hand and onto built reality. The client came with a wonderful brief of understanding the ideas of density, of design quality and density done well. They came to me with precedents and references of Japanese houses infill. So they were really after quality, not size. So they did like the idea of a concrete house. The budget didn't allow in situ concrete house. So we started looking at alternative construction technologies, and that's where the idea of precast or tilt up came to be, and that's where these diagrams start talking to. How do you kind of take a precast panel, sit them on top of each other and actually give yourself the whole structural system and finishing of the project. That design, or that diagram ended up becoming these two panels. So you have the one on the left being the panel for all the ground floor and the one on the right being panels for the first floor, and each panel is made up of two arch types, which is a pedestrian arch and a grand arch. The pedestrian arch gives you movement through the building, and the grand arch is sort of saved for the larger gestures of the building, like an eaves overhang or the kitchen nook or the robe or a void or an opening to a void looking down to the ground floor. Those panels then became this diagram, which is when you just put them all together. And then that diagram turned into this, which is construction drawings. And you can see it's staying consistent the whole way through, which then became that built reality. The whole thing was put up in 48 hours. So the idea being that we wouldn't occupy the street for a long time, and that by using this kind of construction system, which is the same system you use in warehouses and all sorts of other sort of, you know, industrial commercial builds, you know, we kind of get in and get out quickly, and also make a lot of savings in terms of the build program and just the budget. So as you said, that's it going together, and it looks no different to any sort of warehouse build that you'd see anywhere. Apart from the arches, maybe. Maybe worth talking about the arches. The arches was just, I'd recently visited the Tama Art Library, but it was also an idea of how do you kind of soften and humanise a pretty, you know, hard system. And that was sort of where that, the idea of, you know, the kind of human scale and the arch came through. So 3 materials really in the building, which is the concrete, which is these arches. This is them being formed in the factory. This polycarb, which is a damp-on, which sort of gives the diffuse light, and they become the infill. So when the arch isn't used, it gets filled in with this, which is the polycarb, and that's sitting on the east and west facades. There's actually three layers there. You've got 2 layers of the polycarb and then one of that insulating fabric. So we get all our thermal performance through that. And then the other piece that happens is these sort of more intimate touch moments where we're using American black walnut that sort of, you know, again, becomes infills of the arches, but sort of becomes these moments of finesse. So like the bookcase or the stair balustrade or a little welcome station or the kitchen. These are the plans. On the left, ground floor, the middle, the first floor, and the top of the roof deck. The whole house is about 185 square metres. So it's small, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. You enter in through a void and an entry gallery, walk down through that void and then hook right into the kitchen, dining and living room. Or you go upstairs and you have a library, study, breakout space, and then 2 bedrooms with their own bathroom and the master ensuite. And then a roof deck, giving different spaces to get away and be, come together as a family, but also be separate. Onto the images. So this is it from the street. We quite like how the building sort of sits and hovers quite strangely over existing pitched roof lines of suburbia. It's not defined really by politeness, but it doesn't really sort of aim either to be obviously distinct. It's more a result of the internal function and I guess the build ideology and methodology. Sorry, I'm jumping too far. That's another image from the outside across that panel, eastern panel. Entry, so you get this kind of dark recess into a portico, and that's the space above of the void looking straight down. So you open the front door, you see right to the rear of the property. Again, the entry. We've jumped upstairs here to begin with, just to give you a sense of what it looks like inside. You can see the hatch to the roof deck up the top, stairs, bookshelf, little infill pieces. That's looking right from that point there with the study on the right, and that's facing south with a view back to the city, and looking straight ahead to the shadow of the trees on the side. That's the master bedroom straight ahead. Now in the master bedroom. Something else to note is the idea of spatial history. When I first presented this to the clients, they come from second generation immigrant backgrounds, and they'd grown up in houses in the suburbs that were all brick and arch. And so when I presented an arched, or a house with arches in it to them, their first reaction was a little bit of hesitation. But then they finally got to the point of going, well, it's actually a celebration of our familial history and an idea of kind of, it is a story and a part of us. So how do we actually celebrate and bring that in? So these lights, this light you can see over the bed and the same light that's over the stairs, was the lights that were in the client's grandmother's house. And so it was an opportunity to bring them back in and use them again and sort of, I guess keep referencing that idea. Master bedroom with the robe behind the curtain on the left. Back down to the entry. So as you've just stepped in the entry, you've got the stair running up on the right, and then just that really straight view line through with the height above you. The void in the stair with the light. This is now into the dining space, or the living, kitchen, dining. And the idea being that that's the first space you arrive, and that in houses all the most important conversations and social interactions happen around the kitchen bench. So that's the first place you arrive at, and that becomes the heart of the home, almost as shown there, sort of tucked in, almost behind, like on stage, on show. Looking back, looking to the kitchen, dining, another kitchen detail. Then moving back around to the entry. So, really quite simple, naive construction. So you have, these big bits of concrete all just sitting together and being held together basically by gravity. And then the timber moments for the balustrade, become almost like Louis Khan Bangladeshi Parliament, where, it's the moment where you fill in the gaps, but you fill it in a really sort of considered, delicate way. Back at the bottom of the stairs, looking up, with the void on the left. At the top of the stairs, again, the void. At that point, you can take your clothes and piff them down into the laundry, which works really well. Looking across at the top of the stairs again to that's a west-facing window, so that just giving kind of this lovely high diffuse light through that void all day. Standing at that point, looking back towards the study and the stair heading up, you can see the lights above the stair there. The bookshelf. That's the book. So that's a bookcase and the rear of the robe in the master bedroom. So just this one piece of joinery unit sort of does all that work. Master bathroom, the ensuite. Again, you get these little quadrants where the internal layout, the internal program starts to impact on the structural system. And then the kids' bathroom, doing the same thing again. You've got half of that bathroom is tiled and half is the polycarbonate, and up onto the roof deck. And that's the house. Small but punchy. As part of this presentation, we've also been asked to pick one other project that's in the awards program that we think is relevant or resonant with us. For me, there's really kind of one that stands out, and it's Edition Office and Yoni Skars's in absence. I think just very timely with the conversations going on globally. Well, not even conversations, protests about rights and respect and understanding, and I guess the movement away from ignorance. And I think that what this does well is just, you know, simplicity and clarity and power. And I think that's what, you know, we try to search for in all our work. So that's it. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.